Even with all the success that you've had, you're an incredible mother now, businesswoman, you're working with Playboy, you still look back on that and you still feel ashamed?
Yeah, I don't like the fact that people can see me naked on the internet or can see those things happening to me. I think that it's gross.
I did OF and I regret it badly.
Uh-oh, here we go again.
I'm stepping back from doing.
So what shifted? What changed?
Over the past few months, I've become really unhappy and regretting certain decisions that I've.
It makes me feel sick that I've done it.
I've always been fascinated by women who actually made the decision to go into OnlyFans. And I've worked with some of those girls over here when I was in the photography business, right? It was more the soft stuff. It wasn't the heavy stuff that I worked with. I had no problem doing it, right? And I know a lot of them were putting this stuff up on OnlyFans. So I knew quite a few of them over here that are in it. But I always had to understand the mindset of the woman who choose to do that. And I know that a lot of them are not making any real money. It's enough money to get by, but not enough for them to justify getting into a profession that they literally can no longer get out of. In other words, the reputation is screwed, and any easy search can easily identify that this is something that they've done if they ever wanted to get back into a 9-to-5 job. But I know a lot of them struggled. So I found this video this morning that came across my feed from Soft White Underbelly. It is interviewing one of the men who is into marketing these girls on OnlyFans. And I want you guys to just listen. Listen to what he says. And then you'll realize how sinister this business is. And this man makes millions doing this. So this video is entitled, What Would You Do for $310,000 per month? That's what these girls that he works with are making. All right. So let's get into it, my friends. I'll try not to stop it, but hey, I have to contribute my 2 cents to the video because otherwise, YouTube don't like when you just copy videos. Subscribe, book a session, hit that like button, please, on the way in. I try to bring you guys some really good content to keep your mind sharp, to entertain, and to educate. That is my goal. That's why you should always ask an older man. All right, let's do this.
I asked myself, what wouldn't I do for $310,000 a month? And the answer, it's a small list of activities that I wouldn't do.
Yeah. There's a lot I wouldn't do for $310,000 a month, as long as it does not require me stressing out every day whether I'm going to jail or not. If it's not hurting another human being, then there's no other barriers to entry for me, to be honest. I mean, we could talk about morality, but then you need to ask yourself, whose morality are you referring to, right? But that's a deeper philosophical question. Let's get into it. I don't want to distract you guys. So this gentleman is an OnlyFans manager.
All right. Francis.
Hello.
Francis, where are you from originally? Where did you grow up?
Originally, I'm from a small cattle ranch in rural Florida. I don't want to get too specific.
Okay. And what kind of childhood did you have?
Farm life.
Farm life?
Yeah. So I grew up, we had a couple hundred heads of cattle. I lived in a house that was adjacent to the slaughter barn, so that was an interesting childhood. Interesting thing to to wake up to sometimes or go out and see. But yeah, farm life.
Good childhood?
Yeah, I loved it.
Nothing crazy going on?
No, I don't think so.
No terrible role models, anything like that?
Thankfully, no. Parents divorced when I was pretty young, but I think I handled it pretty well, so moved around a lot.
So we'll just cut to the chase here. You are an OnlyFans manager, is that the word?
Correct, yes.
How long have you been doing this?
A little over 2 years now. Yeah, a little over 2 years.
How'd you get started with this?
So it's a long story. I'll try to recall it to the best of my ability. I was single and dating, and I met somebody who was, matched on Tinder. Met somebody who was already doing OnlyFans with limited success.
Man, I can't imagine just meeting someone on Tinder. You think, might be good-looking girl, might be stable, etc. Find out she's an OnlyFans girl. To me, that's bizarre. That's just mind blowing that you're actually still trying to date being an OnlyFans model, i.e., a digital porn star, and trying to date. I don't know. I guess I'm older. That to me, that would just never compute. Never compute. But the fact that you will not disclose that you're an OnlyFans girl in your profile, but still trying to bag a good man. Wow. Wow. Because as far as I'm concerned, that disqualifies you from the dating market. But a lot of women in today's day and age, man, they don't see that as a barrier to entry into finding a good man. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. But I just find that bizarre.
But I had no exposure to the industry. I wasn't really familiar with the OnlyFans platform. My background is in industrial engineering and operations management. And at the time, it was a very strange time in my life. I was in sort of a transitional period. So I went on a date with this girl. It was pretty clear that there wasn't anything romantic that was going to develop, but I was interested. I've always been very opportunistic. I think that's probably the single, if any word is a defining characteristic of my life, it's opportunism. I recognized an opportunity, and so I essentially said, "Hey, I have this ops management background. I think I can probably make your business a little better than it is today." Because she was having difficulty with consistency. She struggles with some mental health issues. And so there was the lack of consistency in terms of delivery of content, just going through periods of depression and not being able to interact with fans at all. And so my offer was essentially at this time I didn't know that OnlyFans management existed at all as a business. And so my initial offer was basically for 10% of whatever income you produce from OnlyFans, I'll take that 10% and I'll build an actual business around OnlyFans for you so that you don't have to be as involved in the day-to-day operations. When we met, she was making $2,000 a month, and last month she made $310,000 per month.
Wow.
Woo! So this brother became a digital pimp because these women are digital hoes. This gentleman is a digital pimp. We can call it a manager. We can freaking color it in all these different beautiful flowery terms. But in reality, that is exactly what a pimp did. In the day when the woman was out on the street, he's the man that went out and he usually found clients for her as well. Yeah, I got some bitches. You want to find some bitches? Yeah, man, I got my bitch. Come on. Hey, Cindy, get over here. I'll set you up, man. It's the same thing. Sure, she had to go out and stand on the street corner and advertise herself, but the pimp was there to protect her and he negotiated whatever prices there were, man. He go pick her up. He take care of her. He was her manager. This gentleman just said, hey, I was a digital pimp. And you could see that he is not exactly proud of this position because he has his face blurred out.
So things have changed quite a lot in the last 2 years.
I've interviewed probably a handful or two of young women and even an older woman who have OnlyFans accounts, and some of them are just killing it.
Yes.
Just killing it, making $250,000, $300,000 a month.
Yeah.
But what I've learned from all of them is that they work their asses off. None of them are just like putting up some naked pictures and making a killing.
I would say the pornographic content is actually probably the smallest part of the entire business.
Really?
Yes.
Where are they making money?
Most of it is, most of the, how to rephrase that? The money does come from the not safe for work content. But the production of, once you have a sufficient bolus of content, the production of content of adult content no longer matters. So for instance, none of the models that I work with have made adult content in over 12 months.
So where does the money come from?
We just recycle the old content. The customer life cycle, most subscribers on OnlyFans only stick around for roughly 90 days on average.
So the older content would work.
We just recycle. We just recycle over and over again.
And
we present it as new content.
Are they also kind of using their contacts through that OnlyFans account?
I hope you guys who actually do consume OnlyFans content, you do realize that you're just getting recycled stuff. Just keep listening, gentlemen, because it gets even deeper and wilder. It's amazing how much the customers are being lied to. It's insane.
Their contacts through that OnlyFans account to do like in-person
No, not at all.
with these guys?
No, not at all. OnlyFans takes that extremely seriously. They would immediately, if somehow it came out that a model was doing off-site escorting or prostitution or anything like that, they would immediately lose all of their rights on the platform. And there's just no need for it, really. I don't know why a model would willingly choose to do that when they can make $310,000 a month.
So what you're saying, by recycling old content, is it not as difficult as I've heard, where it's like they're actually, once you have enough content, you can kind of just recycle?
Absolutely, yeah. So a majority of the effort comes in on the promotional side. So an overwhelming, I haven't shot adult content, like I said, in over a year. None of the models that I work with have had to do so unless they choose to do custom content, which is increasingly less common. But an overwhelming majority of my work is related to promotion. So really, in a lot of ways, I'm more of like a chief marketing officer for hire. That's kind of the fundamental role of the OnlyFans agency.
What do you think of the whole premise of all these young ladies making so much money basically selling pornography? I guess it's nothing new, but now there seems to be a lot of them.
Yes. I think net it's I can't make a moral judgment on it. Obviously, I profit on it. And it is extraordinarily profitable. I think it's very difficult for me to come up with some reason. I've always been a make money at any cost kind of person. Mm-hmm. I've done worse things than produce pornography in order to pay the bills. But it's hard for me to think of a rational reason why you wouldn't do it if you are a young lady who has few other options. And certainly nobody that I work with could be making more money doing anything else. So from that perspective, as a person who's pretty amoral about how people make their money, I really don't have any opinion or judgment. I think net from a societal perspective, it's probably quite bad.
It's probably quite bad. This is a guy who can't show his face. This is a guy who's profiting significantly. He makes over $1 million a year doing this. I'm sure a lot of you out there will say, shit, if I'm making over $1 million a year, pimping these girls out and doing what they want to do, and they're getting their fair share, why the hell not? But it gets worse because a lot of people don't see where all this money is coming from. Because you could say the same thing about a drug dealer. A drug dealer, he might say, well, I'm not hurting anybody, and these people who are taking my drugs, they are consenting adults, and they know what they're doing, and you can give all the excuse that you possibly want. But you know that your product is addictive, highly addictive. And these men who are consuming the product, they are addicted to the product. But one thing is interesting, most men don't stay with that OnlyFans girl for more than 90 days, which is interesting. 3 months. So, because to be honest, after you see a girl take off her clothes, show her titties, then show the punani, and then use some toys, you're going to want to keep seeing more, because that's how we are as men. We need to see more. If I see her short titties once, I don't need to see that again. I saw that. So she has to keep ramping it up until she ultimately get where she's being sandwiched between two big black guys, just killing it, right? Double penetration is pretty much the ultimate end. When women have reached that point is when really can't do much else besides that to ramp it to the next level. I mean, you guys unless then you're going into the freaky shit, where you're bringing in 10 guys or 1,000 guys like Lily Phillips, or animals, or some freaking crazy shit like that. And then that is to the absolute extreme. So most women will run out of content within a month to 3 months, depending on how much the man consumes, whether he's a light consumer or a heavy consumer. He will get sick of her in 3 months. Then he'll move on to the next girl, a new girl, fresh stuff. Because that's who we are biologically. We want variety as men. If we had the opportunity to have more than one woman, then we would have more than one woman. We're only as faithful as our options. But if we're not the type of guy that can attract multiple women and switch them out whenever we get sick of it, then we're doing the same thing with pornography. We are still satisfying that biological need to procreate with different women. So whether we're doing it mentally in our hands or we're doing it physically in the real world, it's serving the same purpose. So that's the physical need, right? However, this gentleman will display and explain that OnlyFans girls are now realizing that they could keep the men there longer if they play with their heads. And that's the shit that's freaky. And that's what you're going to learn right now, gentlemen.
And I certainly...
Bad for society?
I would say so, yeah.
I'd agree, I think. Or maybe that's just a judgment that...
Well, there's really no good comes of it. Fundamentally, OnlyFans is an addiction-based industry. All of our largest clients, so for instance, on my most successful creator, she has a guy who in the last 90 days has spent roughly $45,000 on content.
$45,000. Jesus, in a month. That man just pissed away his life savings. Whew. That's insane. So obviously this isn't just from rubbing one out. This is a whole manipulation game that has been taken to the highest of the highest level. Because once the man, blows his load, he has clarity. He just feels, okay, I'm satisfied. So if that person is fragile mentally, he's blown his physical load, but his mental satisfaction has not been achieved. He's lonely, etc. Usually that's the first point. He's lonely, he's depressed. He cannot make logical decisions. And these women are good at manipulating the man to get whatever she wants out of him. But is it the woman? It's not necessarily so. You'll see.
Again, this is all old, recycled content that's being presented as new to the subscriber. And that's not an uncommon story. That's not an uncommon occurrence for people to spend thousands of dollars. And these are not wealthy men. This guy in particular, I think, is like ex-military. And so he's spending a majority of his income on OnlyFans for that sense of connection, for that sense of intimacy. And so facilitating that, it seems obvious to me that that's not doing anybody any good. From my perspective, I think that society is already heading in a direction that is so antithetical to the way that I want to live my life that I've dedicated this portion of my life to making enough money to not be anywhere near it. I don't think there's anything at the individual level that can really be done to fix it. And so my objective is to amass as many resources as possible in order to provide a place, whether that's a compound or a homestead or something like that, for my family to be safe and for my future children to not have to be exposed to.
You don't have kids? Not yet. What if you had like a daughter or two and they were thinking about doing this?
Oh, absolutely not. No chance. Yeah, no.
Wow. See, that's the thing. This is a guy that has no real conscience. Morality for this man doesn't exist. I will destroy other people, but my kids, hell no. No. But on the other hand, you have to look at it from this perspective. If it wasn't him, it would be somebody else. And I know this is not the way to look at life, right? But the reality of it is not every single man is going to say that. Not every man is, or every single manager, digital pimp, who has the capability of doing what he's doing is going to say this. So eventually there will be somebody that will say, hey, the money is too much. I need this money. If these women want to sell their bodies, I'm here to market it. In other words, my friends, there are many men who have already said, I would not do this job. But he's that guy that says, I'll do it. But even him don't really want to do it, but it's an opportunity to make a massive amount of money, which is what he's doing right now. But ultimately, he wants to get out of the business. Because I think morally, most people will grow a conscience when they see enough people suffering from the thing that they're selling. It's part of who we are. It's human nature. You will have to be a psychopath or a sociopath to not have any feelings. And most of us aren't. We're not sociopaths or psychopaths.
Again, the money element is really, really difficult to rationally tell somebody, hey, like you can't do this. This is a bad idea, because there really isn't an easier way to make money.
No, when a girl's back is against the wall, she's got bills and she can't pay them, and you're trying to figure out.
And even if not, I mean, it's really hard for me to come up with a convincing argument to say, even if you're in a perfectly fine economic position, I ask myself, what wouldn't I do for $310,000 a month? And the answer, it's a small list of activities that I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
So, and you've interviewed plenty of sex workers. OnlyFans is also an extraordinarily safe way for these women to make money relative to prostitution.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare that to the escorting, prostitution, stripping, porn, whatever, it blows them all away.
Yes, by far the safest. The model has complete control over the type of content that they produce, the schedule on which they produce it. There's
money can be great, but there is no guarantee that it will be, because I think there's probably a very tiny percentage that are making good money.
So I personally will only work with creators who are putting $1 million or more into my pocket every year. So I only work with 3 models currently, and I'm actually winding down management operations. We can talk about that in a second.
So he said he only works with models that can put $1 million in his pocket every year. Only works with 3. That means he's making over $3 million a year. That's insane amount of money for a guy doing this sort of business. And if it's only 10% of the money that he's making from these women, imagine what kind of money these women are making. Whew.
It's extremely top heavy. The income distribution on OnlyFans is extremely top heavy. So if you're just a random, I guess the argument against would be that if you're just a random person who has no background in social media, who has no background in creative operations, who has no background in business operations, OnlyFans provides the distribution platform, but they don't promote you. They don't do anything for you.
No, you have to do all the promotion on Instagram or
sure, yeah. There's paid ads. So a lot of agencies will do. My agency is fairly unique in that we exclusively focus on vertically scaling organic social creators. So what I mean by that is basically we work with a very small number of creators. We work with them very closely, and we build a brand and an image for them so that they can grow. Those individual accounts can grow as large as possible.
Are the women that you've seen do this successfully, do they seem happy with their decision?
Yes and no. I mean, you've spoken to a lot of people. You've certainly spoken to a lot more people in this profession than I have, and I think most of them are in some way very damaged, and they come from. They're coming into it with less than optimal mental health, let's say. So I don't think any of them are any unhappier for it, but I don't think that they're necessarily happier for it either. But they're also in substantially better economic positions than they were. To go from my most performant model was working, in back of house in restaurants. And when I met her again, she was making $2,000 a month. Now she's a millionaire.
Yeah.
So she's not happy all the time, but she's, I forget who said the joke, but it's hard to be sad when you're on a jet ski.
Yeah, this is always a point where we as individuals have to decide, is it better to be rich and depressed or poor and happy? Take your pick. Rich and depressed or poorer and happy? But then you can argue, well, if you're poor, how can you actually be happy? Well, if you watch my video from last night on the Henrys, and I explained my position with my helper, for example, my Filipino helper, who was making $1,000 a month living over here, but I've never seen such a happy person in my life. So it's all subjective. But if we're trying to live a so-called Western luxury life, that's very difficult to be happy in, because happiness is subjective. But most of us keep chasing simple pleasures, and that's the biggest issue. That's what keeping us very unhappy. Because the pleasures are like drugs, dopamine hits. Buying shit, produces the same amount of dopamine and the same pleasurable feeling as if you're hitting cocaine or freaking having sex. A lot of you will argue that point because you enjoyed one of those things better, more than the next. But the chemicals that are being produced in the brain are pretty much the same thing. It might not be the same amount of dopamine produced, but you're still getting that dopamine hit. You telling me that you buy a nice, beautiful Rolex today, or you can afford to now buy a nice car, or you move into a new apartment or buy a nice house, etc. It's the same sort of feeling you're going to get when you had sex or when you freaking had drugs. I've never had drugs, by the way. All right, little weed 3 times in my life, but that's it. But I can imagine that's the feeling based on what my friends have told me.
Ramifications of let's say you've created an OnlyFans account and you're making $1 million a year or something. Mm-hmm. Even if you get out, you still have to live with that content being out there in the world?
Yes. And I mean, I think that is, if you're not willing to accept that, then you should absolutely not even consider it. And I think that's something that I see a lot of young women do early on, before I really focused on vertically scaling organic, before I focused on only working with models that I thought had that $1 million plus potential. I spoke with a lot of young women who were doing it on their own in a much smaller scale. And, you know, they're putting out, fully naked bodies, spread open, doing everything that you can imagine for a very small amount of money. And not with very little likelihood, like not the work ethic, or the understanding of the mechanics of the marketing element to ever make more than, a few hundred or a few $1,000 a month.
What are the secrets of promotion and marketing?
The secret is that you have to be ferociously dedicated to it. And the volume of content that you have to put out is pretty insane. So contractually, the minimum amount of individual unique pieces of content that a model can put out per week for my agency is 21. So that means they have to make 3 original pieces of short form video content every single day. In addition to, on Instagram, you have carousels, so pictures, story posts. And in reality, the most performant models are making, in some cases, as many as 100 unique pieces of content a week or more. So those are that's what it looks like when you're fully operationalized, right? When you have a whole team behind you. I have my video editor, Matt, and I also have a team of about 50 contractors who are working they do the chatting side of the business.
Listen up, gentlemen. This is the part that freaked me out, okay? This is the part that freaked me out, because a lot of you think that you're talking to the actual models. No, this is the part that blew my mind.
So behind one model, what the consumer sees on Instagram is what appears to be one model, doing all of the work and making the adult content and having this unique personality, but that's entirely fabricated. All of that is manufactured. And behind that model is a team, a full creative team and a full operations team. And at the largest level, I'm a very small agency. I'm probably in terms of net revenue monthly, my agency is probably in the bottom of the top 1%. So we're in that top 1% of agencies, but we're very likely in the bottom. There are agencies that are making, raking in millions, tens of millions of dollars a month. And they're managing many, many, many more models than I am.
I guess we have to think about it, right? In the U.S. alone, I think they said like 10% of young eligible women are doing OnlyFans. 10%, right? Millions of women. But you guys haven't even looked at UK, Sweden, Ireland, Jamaica, every single other country in the world. There are also hundreds, thousands, and millions of women that are doing the same thing. So you might know about famous American OnlyFans models that are raking it in, but there are women all over the world that are doing this shit, speaking different languages. Yeah. So if one agency has 3 girls, so that means that there are opportunities for 10, 15, 20,000 more agencies around the world to do the same damn thing. This is a massive industry, my friends.
Commenting or interacting with the models. Yes. They think they're interacting with the models. Who are they actually interacting with? So
some of these women have 5, 6, 7,000 subscribers on their site. They can't talk to these people individually. You got to have a team of people talking to these men to keep pulling in that money. And this is where the deception and the manipulation comes in. This is where the pros freaking come in.
And so when guys are commenting or interacting with the models,
yes,
they think they're interacting with the models. Who are they actually interacting with?
So on OnlyFans, who they're actually interacting with is, in our case, a team of Croatian and German chatters. These are generally
male or female.
Both. We have both. We have some stud women and some stud men, but it's essentially it's a very unique kind of a sales job, I guess, is how I would describe it. So they work in shifts, and this is true of, by the way, essentially everybody on OnlyFans right now who's making any money is doing this. There's no if you believe that you are chatting with the model on OnlyFans, in some cases these models have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and I think that if you're falling for the ruse of you actually believe that you're talking to the model, you are willingly submitting to a delusion, and that is the case in a lot of these instances. My largest model has over 10,000 subscribers, and we'll have subscribers that are they're spending money every day, and they're saying, I don't really think this is you. Like, I feel like I'm talking to somebody else. And they pay anyway. There's a depth of loneliness that I have a hard time coming to grips with, that I really have intuitively or rationally, I have a very difficult time understanding. But it's very clear that these men are deeply, deeply lonely and deeply desperate for some kind of intimacy, even if it's, mitigated by a screen, and even if they have some real suspicion that they're talking to a 40-year-old Pakistani man.
Or eventually
Holy Jesus. A 40-year-old Pakistani man. Oh gosh. Oh man, that is wrong. Imagine that. You think you're talking to a beautiful woman that is, you've watched her, do her thing, and you think that she's now talking to you directly, and it's some 40-year-old Pakistani man. Oh gosh.
So a lot of these OF creators, the big ones, will work at an agency, and they have people manage their account, obviously. But then this is the fun part. They usually have people in developing countries who are getting paid a very low hourly rate to pretend to be this creator and have the communication and the conversations with the guys. So when the guy's requesting custom content or they're having chats, they're not actually talking to the creator. It's usually someone in a developing country who's getting paid a very low hourly rate, which is extremely sad for this person. But so they are fumbling your relationship to not even actually speak to this woman. And that doesn't excuse the behavior. That doesn't mean it's okay. It's absolutely cheating, and you're validated for being mad. You're not overreacting. You're not being insecure. But I don't know. It's kind of funny thinking of all the guys who are fumbling relationships for OF creators, and they're not even speaking to the OF creator.
This is not only mind-blowing, it's eye-opening as well, because I had no idea. I never thought of it, to be honest. I've never really looked into it. I always envision everything at a lower level, which is, I took some nice nudes for some girls over here, and they slapped them up on OnlyFans, and, they claimed that they were making anywhere between $500 to $2,000 a month. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool, beautiful. So this is definitely a whole freaking different level of business and manipulation. Because that poor soldier that just gave up $45,000, don't think that he knew that he's not talking to the actual girl. I don't think if he had any visions of this being somebody fake, that he would not pay that money. But he was manipulated into sending that amount of money. And a lot of these people, they are pros at manipulating and sucking money out of men. Well, out of anyone. You ever heard of the pig butchering scheme? If you haven't seen that, I've done a video on this before. Go and check it out on YouTube. I did a video on it. You can actually put in Ask an Older Man, pig butchering, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But to me, it's just disheartening to think that human beings are out there that are capable of taking advantage of someone else's emotions at that level and sucking that amount of money out of them to drain their resources and their life at this level.
A little AI robot or something.
Soon, very soon. AI is going to be extremely disruptive to this industry. It's one of the reasons that I'm getting out of the game slowly but surely. I think AI is going to probably wipe out the bottom 90% of creators, not just on OnlyFans, but on social media in general.
Isn't it going to eventually wipe out even the top ones who are human?
I don't think so. And the reason for that is that I think humans have an obsession with status and fame and celebrity, and people will always pay for access and exposure to celebrity. That's my agency's entire thesis.
A live person.
To a live person who is also, who has
a personality.
A personality, but also a brand, some cultural cachet. Because, for instance, like a very famous actor or an athlete or something like that, they have this built-in, fame is the biggest, and I think you've talked about this with Orion at some point. Fame is like a multiplier to attractiveness that is beyond compare. And it's mostly true. I think women are more swayed by fame than men are. But there is something about, it's almost like a reality TV dynamic. There's something about observing someone who is objectively better than you in every way, who has a better life than you, who has more money than you, who is more beautiful than you. Like still the idea that you could have access to that person brings them down to your level. And people are willing to pay ungodly amounts of money for that. And so I think that will continue to be the case in the future. I think that top, in the case of my largest creator, top 0.01% on OnlyFans, she's got just under 1 million followers on Instagram. There's always going to be demand for that fame and status. And I think part of it is you just get so many net new exposures. There's so many eyes on you that, you have a much larger chance of scooping up paid subscribers. But I do think that the fame element plays a big part. And that's the thing that I don't think that AI will disrupt. But that, again, I think that bottom 90% of creators is just going to get absolutely wiped out.
Have there been women who...
So this, my friends, is only half of the video. I'm going to put the link in the description of this video, and also I'm going to pin it at the top of the comment section. Yes, I'll remember to do it. I never leave it out deliberately, so don't come at me, guys. Sometimes I'm editing late, and usually I get tired and I forget to put it in when I actually post. But I never intentionally go to do it, okay? So, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this. Please go over to Soft White Underbelly and watch the rest of this, because it digs deeper and deeper into this whole world of OnlyFans. And it really shows you the dark side of this business, man. Whew. It's scary how men are being manipulated. It's scary how many men are lonely enough to spend a significant amount of money on something they kind of know isn't real. It's no different than using AI for companionship. A lot of men are actually doing that. Just this morning, I spoke to a gentleman in the gym. He said, I use my AI almost like my best friend, And and I'm like, okay. I say I usually just use mine to debate back and forth about issues I want to discuss on my channel, but I don't push it for a friendship at all. I think I prefer to draw that line, right? And I said, don't get so wrapped up into it. I said, focus on real people so that you can actually keep your communication skills up for you to be able to communicate in real life to real people. And he said, yeah, thank you. I'll try doing that. So my friends, listen, go over to Soft White Underbelly and support them. And please like this video on the way out. And of course, pick up one of my digital products. So until tomorrow, my friends, remember, whenever in doubt, always, always ask an older man. I'll see you soon. Cheers.